Hello friends, welcome to my channel. My name is Mina Rodi. I do have a very interesting topic or discussion I want to have with you guys, my friends on YouTube. We have seen recently how an African judge, or is she Ugandan? She stands the chance of going to jail because of what is termed modern day slavery. In many parts of Africa, domestic work is a common job, and for some, it's a means of survival. But when viewed through the lens of Western society, it's often seen as modern-day slavery. But is it really the same? Is it really modern-day slavery? In Africa, many households rely on domestic help to manage the home. These workers are often women who are trying to make ends meet. In some ways, the work they do is essential to the household survival, but is often undervalued and underpaid. The role of domestic helpers is as much about survival as it is about contributing to the local economy. In the UK and other Western countries, however, the role of a domestic helper is viewed with suspicion, sometimes even seen as modern-day slavery. The notion of someone working in a private home for low wages with no protections seems to invoke feelings of injustice. I understand completely where the Western world is coming from. And I know that there are some people who abuse this, who abuse their domestic helpers. In Africa, it's more like trade by barter. I have the means, I have the money, you don't have the money, so I bring you into my home and empower you economically, and I pay you a fair wage that we have both agreed. That's if we are dealing with an adult. But if sometimes you have minors, sometimes parents send their children away to go and help and become domestic helpers in different homes, and then they agree with the household, with the lady of the manor, with the woman of the house, or with the man and woman of the house on what they expect in return. Some people, they have wages, they agree on a fixed amount of money that you should be paying to them because of their child being in your house and helping you out. And then there are some people, even though you would pay them, they would agree at some point that when the child gets to a certain age, or after that child has lived with you for 1 year or 2 years, they would like you to send that child to school, or they would like you to send the child to acquire a skill, a vocational skill. But we often find that sometimes people abuse that. Yes, they do. They do abuse it. But does that make it all right? Or does that mean it should be accepted in the society? No, I don't think so. And you find the rich and the affluent, or people who can afford to bring helps, domestic helps, into the UK or into any Western world they find themselves, to help them with chores in the house, to help them with childcare. And I want to tend to understand the part of seizing their passports. I wouldn't want to say seize the passport. I believe they should have an agreement on what they expect from each other. If I am going to be in possession of your passport for X amount of time, because I want to be sure that you're going to be with me for this long, and that does not mean I am infringing on your fundamental human right. I believe if there is an agreement, fair agreement between both parties, that can be workable. But where people get it wrong is when they bring these people in and they give them stringent rules. These people are not free to do anything. They are not free to go out. They don't have weekends to themselves, They are just working round the clock like slaves. then that is inhuman. But back home, we are so used to having these helps. If I had a help here in the UK with me, I won't do most of the things that you find me doing. You won't find me cooking sometimes. You won't find me cleaning, You won't find me doing all the things that I have employed the domestic help to be doing for me. So when I have that help doing those things for me, I am able to pay more attention to other things that are equally important. It's more like delegation. I can afford to pay someone to come in and clean my house. I can afford to pay someone to come in and live with me and be doing the chores for me in the house, shop for me, take children to school, bring them up from school, and then I should also give them some kind of freedom and liberty. You work 5 days a week. Give them 2 days off in the week. Let them associate with people and make friends. And I believe when you take care of them very well and you've shown them that you are interested in their welfare, you are interested in their growth, you are interested in their progress in this land that you have brought them to, it does not matter what people tell them outside about you or about the laws of the land. As long as you can prove that you've been fair with this person and the wages are there to show for itself, the time off that you give to this person is there to show for itself, then I think you can be free from that term modern day slavery. In the end, we need to approach the subject with nuance and compassion. It's about understanding the context and realities of domestic work, acknowledging the inequalities that exist, and working toward a future where everyone is treated with dignity, regardless of their role in the society. In Africa, millions of domestic helpers work tirelessly every day. They may be nannies, cleaners, cooks, roles vital to households. Yet, many of these workers are often paid poorly and lack legal protection. UK domestic work has a different perception. It's often seen as something that reflects inequality. The idea of someone being trapped in such work, unable to escape, can feel like modern day slavery. But is it really the same everywhere? Take the case of a former UN judge from Uganda. She was convicted for forcing a woman into domestic slavery in the UK, deceiving her, confiscating her passport, and trapping her in an abusive household. A powerful example of how even those in positions of authority can abuse the system. So why is it that domestic work in one place is seen as a job, like in Africa is seen as a job, but in another it is associated with exploitation? The Ugandan judge, former UN judge by the name Lydia Mugambe, she was recently convicted in the UK for forcing a young woman into domestic slavery. She manipulated the victim, confiscated her passport, and made her work as a maid and nanny without pay or protection. This is real-life example of how domestic work can turn into exploitation. But it's not just an isolated case. These happen around the world. So why do perceptions differ so widely between Africa and the UK? Is it simply cultural, or does it have to do with who holds the power in these situations? In Africa, domestic workers are often seen as essential members of the family structure, yet they are not always recognized or compensated fairly. In the UK, the same work is often criminalized when it turns into something more sinister, like modern-day slavery. So where is the line? Don't get me wrong. I know that some people can do all they can and treat domestic help with fairness and equity. But there are people, these so-called domestic helps, that have bad intentions. Because here you are, somebody's bringing you to the UK or taking you to Europe, which is like what people dream of. Back home in Africa, people sell their properties to be able to come into this land. And the reason why they do that is because of the system we have in place back home in Africa. Things are not really working. We have corrupt systems back home in Africa. So people are escaping all of those things. And then here you see somebody is asking you or telling you, I'm going to take you to Europe. You're going to live with me. You're going to serve me. This is our agreement. And the person already has evil intention, a way of escape, and will come into the UK and will turn around and, get you into trouble. I'm not saying that is the case 100%, but look, we live in a day and age where there is information everywhere. The world is now like a global stage. There is interconnection everywhere. People will read laws and know what is not allowed, and they will pretend as if they are ignorant, and they will come into the UK with you, and they will twist things and turn things around and make you look like the criminal. There are people like that. They are people like that. But for you to find genuine ones, it's very rare. But we hope and pray anyone who is doing that should be very careful. And I understand where you're coming from. Look, you're coming to the UK, from back home, you had all of these people helping you and doing stuff for you. But here you have to do all of those things yourselves. And for those who can afford to have such people around them, I don't blame them. But you need to know exactly what you're going into with these people, with these so-called domestic helps, so that they don't turn the table around and make you look the bad one. So this video for me is just to let you guys know that back home in Africa, we have domestic helps, and there is an agreement between us and the helps and even their families, what is expected, what the expectations are from both parties, and we do it and we live happily ever after. Need I remind you that there are some domestic helps who come in with evil agenda. They come and they overthrow the madam of the house. Yes, we've had stories, we've seen things like that happen. So the domestic helps, they are not all, after all, they are not all that righteous and holy. But it just depends on who you get, who you find, and the heart of the person that you have with you as your domestic help. Some of them, they have evil intentions for their mistresses or for the madam of the house or the lady of the manor. And there are some I know that are being abused. That I frown upon. It should not be allowed. We should not encourage such behaviors from people who are well able, to afford these domestic helps. I pray that we'll all become wiser and more knowledgeable. I'd like to close here that domestic help or domestic work, whether in Africa or anywhere else, deserves respect. It is not just about chores, it is about human dignity, fairness, and ensuring that the people who perform this task are valued. It's time to rethink the way we view domestic labor and work towards a future where all workers are treated with the respect they deserve. If this content or this video appeals to you, or if you can relate with this video, please hit the subscribe button, the like, share, and let me read your comments. Let's meet in the comment section below. What do you think of domestic help? How do you view it as an African living in the diaspora? Is it something you have considered to do, or did you at some point in your life had these helps helping you whilst you were back home in Africa? Let me know in the comment section. And don't forget, I love you all with the love of Christ, and I shall see you in my next video. From Mina, it's bye.
Our hearts beat to the city streets. We began to feel the fire. We rise like tall buildings.